the multiverse argument, where they say that there are many singularities, and based on laws of probability, this one came up as what we call the perfect universe, right? Because it's got the ability to sustain life. Brian Greene talks about that in his arguments about, because he's a proponent of the multi-universe system. I don't have any problems with that. The still question is, the container that contains all these singularities, were they always there? And why this one can sustain life? What about the rest? And where did they come from? And why did they decide to sustain life? And why is perfection so necessary for it to sustain life? See, these are ethical questions no scientist will dare get into, because he knows he's back to square one. I said, give me infinite universes. What difference does it make? Unless you're willing to agree that these universes have always existed, by laws of thermodynamics and science, we know that everything is a finite entity, has a moment of time. Everything. And no scientist in the world will tell you that time is an infinite entity. It's a finite entity. If it was infinite, you and I could not divide it. We divide time all the time. All the time. So it's finite. By logical deduction, anything that's finite has to have an origin. It had a moment. When it started, well, then it's not eternal. If it's not eternal, because no finite entity can exist in the realm of the infinite infinitely. Impossible. In fact, it's a contradiction. So when we see infinite, when objects approach infinity, it's a finite entity displaying a quality towards infinity. But nothing in science is infinite. There's only one absolute unique infinity in the world of science, even in the world of ideologies. So when we understand this, we know time had an origin. Therefore, we know this universe had a start. The universes had a start. And it still brings us back to the original question. How can nothing come from nothing with nothing by nothing? You get it? How can something, in other words, comes from nothing by nothing with nothing? Whatever has made it has always been, that's the logical argument. Even scientists agree that something always had to be there for all of this to happen. So the multiverse argument, even if we go in there, this was my argument with Carrier, because he was arguing with Corey on this issue in the second debate. And I jumped in and I said, what's the difference? You're trying to put wool over, you're putting wool over our eyes. What's the difference? I'm not arguing against the multiverse system. This is a scientific talk. Doesn't matter. It's still begging the question, where did the multiverse system come in? That's the philosophical argument we're having today. We're not going to dissect all of science today and tell you how the universe is functioning. I don't care. I want to know, how did this multi-universe system originate? Are you assuming it was always there? Please prove your point. And Carrier moved away from it. I said, prove it. That's the whole argument about God. That from nothing comes nothing. We are something. Whether it's multi or universe or single universe, I don't care. It's still something, and I want to know, where did it come from? This is so rudimentary as a question. It's so elementary as a question that people scratch their heads and they think, no, there's got to be something more to it. There's nothing more to it. That's the elegance of belief in Allah. That's the elegance of Islam, is that the belief in God is so simple that many a times we're stumped by it. It's too simple, we say. No, it's too simple. It's got to be more complicated. I'm saying to us, it's not complicated. The belief in Allah is too simple. Let's leave it there. There's no need to go further. But if you want to go further, brace yourself and get into the world of science and argue about every possible parameter. Trust me, you will see that it comes back to the same argument over and over and over. Done this, been there. I'm telling you, I'm not saying it with confidence that I want to sound like I'm being, egotistic or cocky in any way. I'm saying it sincerely. Sincerely, I say to us all, that it's a lot of rhetoric with very little substance when it comes to these possibilities. But in the world of science, when people make these possibilities, I laud them for it. I said, thank you, because we have to entertain them. Maybe there is a looming hole out there that needs to be answered. But every hole, every potential question that has come, has always come back to its original answer, which is where the elegance of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. It's so simple and sublime and powerful that I'm telling you, in my years, being even in universities, in the Department of Sciences, sitting with scientists and experts in math and in physics and in all the areas, I said, please explain to me. I do not want to belittle you. Please tell me, what are your limitations? Where do you go? Because I want to understand who you are. Maybe you've got an answer for me. I haven't got one yet. Not by their answers. There's only one answer. This is why there's that passion in that. It's impossible any other way. And I'm not talking about one element. I'm talking about collection of every angle. I'm talking about a three-dimensional universe. Remember, please, even when you study cosmology, the expansion of the universe is not linear. It's three-dimensional. It's happening at every corner, every angle. There's an equidistant expansion from every angle. This is fascinating. This is incredible. Usually when you expand something, you go on one dimension, in a three-dimensional world. You're talking about a dimension that's in 3D, where the expansion of all the stars, for example, are moving away from each other equidistant. So when I see that, I say, when I'm going to make my judgment on Iman and belief, I have to look at it multidimensional. My actions, my transactions, my humanity, my flesh, my thoughts, my ideas have to be taken into all these considerations. And it's very simple. Impossible that I'm existing here as an accident. It is impossible. Impossible, capital I. I'm not saying it to impress you, please, brothers and sisters. Honestly, Allah is my witness. I say it with understanding of all my years, in my limited knowledge. It's impossible.